A few minutes before our conversation, during the discussion, you mentioned very interesting definition of animated film, which is the symbiosis of poetry and caricature. So, in a sense, do you think that animated film is different, which is completely independent from cinema in general?
I have to say first, I'm not a scientist, and what I was saying was a kind of, I was quoting some Russian thinkers. Among them was, I mentioned my friend Fyodor Khidruk, and he somehow introduced me to this idea. And actually, that would mean, and I agree with this definition at the moment, there is no other information so far which would make me change my mind. And this definition for me says very clear, animation is aesthetically and technically completely independent from all other medias.
You brought to Animateka a selection of films made by your students. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us a little bit about this selection?
Mm-hmm. The selection is not representing my favorites. I just was trying to care about technique, because there are many different techniques, so I wanted to show many different styles also. And there are different ways of narration. You know, there are narrative films, there are more experimental films. And the basic idea of the selection is to give the audience the chance to get an idea what are these people in Switzerland, in Lucerne, where I'm coming from, where I'm working at the Arts Academy, what they working on. Because I think basically animation is, you cannot teach animation. Mm-hmm. You can only give ideas, yeah. And this, but the students on the end, I think they have to teach themselves. And you know, it's on the other side, animation is a very strong media, yeah. And everybody thinks, oh, it's easy to make, yeah. But I think most of the students or most of the filmmakers not really capture the entire strength of animation. So we try to give our students a kind of direction, to give them some basics, and after that they really have to develop themselves. So let's say educating animation means educating people to recognize themselves, so that they have a very strong idea about themselves. And if we manage to get this, then I think we are already on a very good side. But this is very difficult, of course.
You mentioned that the films represent the variety of different techniques.
Yes.
Do you have your favorite technique of animation?
Actually, my favorite technique is still classical puppet animation in the short, but also in the long versions, and not the digital way, because I'm missing the texture, I'm missing soul, let's say, yeah. And on a certain moment, these digital techniques, they was very popular among students, because they all wanted to be, you know, animators on the big studios in Hollywood. But step by step, it's normalizing, and interestingly, if they the first time, because they have to deal with classical puppet animation, and the most digital maniacs turn into classical puppet animators. And this is amazing, yeah. Without pressure from teachers, they have the possibility to investigate about the classics, but they also have the possibility to do the latest technique, yeah. And I'm always somehow a little bit, how to say, flattered when I see that they, on the end, go back to the classics, yeah. But of course, computer 3D, computer animation, offers another field of aesthetical expression. So I'm not completely against this, but if you ask me for my favorites, then I have to say classical techniques. First of all, puppets. Of course, I like all the other techniques too.
And what do you think about combining new technologies with classical approaches?
This is happened many times, and you know yourself that the production process of animation is completely digitalized. Yeah. And I think this is always a mix. Even if we see a classical puppet film, there is a lot of digital technique. Yeah, you know, the latest when they edit, the films, but also already in the process of production. You know, 40 years ago, when you did animation, you did not know what is the result before the print was coming from the laboratory. Yeah. But nowadays we can have the possibility, because everything will be digitalized, so we can do corrections already in the digital way. Yeah, that means digital is really taking all our life. Yeah, possibly even our bodies. Yeah, but of course, no way out of digital technique. We have to use it, and I think partly it's really helpful.
Okay.
As long the technique is used for achieving an artistic goal.
Is it your first time on Animateka, and what are your impressions so far?
It's my first time in Ljubljana. It's my first time in Slovenia. It's my first time on Animateka. But I know the festival already from catalogs and from the website. And of course I know the director, Igor. And so I had a kind of notion already before coming. But now it's my second day and the festival just started. So my first impression is amazing. First of all, the amount of really good programs, and also the quality of presentation of the films, because this is very important. I met already very nice people, and I very much like Ljubljana as a city. Yeah, and so it's good to be here. Thank you very much for having me.